Lord, I bow down before you. I was lost in despair, but nobody knew. 'Cause I smiled through it all, and I constantly prayed to you. I needed a kind word, a smile or a hug. I needed to know that somebody loved me, 'cause I felt so all alone. But lo and behold,
in the midst of it all,
in the midst of it all,
you encouraged my soul.
Yeah, you did.
So I won't let go.
I won't let go. I'll just keep
holding on.
Keep holding on. In the midst
of it all,
right in the middle,
you encourage my soul.
That's what your word did. Your word encouraged me. I'll just keep holding on. So I stayed, Lord, in your presence, 'cause I believed you would hear me, but I didn't know you were already moving. Lord, you were there all along. Then you sent down your angels to lift my head up just a little higher. And that's when I knew you heard me, saw me, loved me. Yes, you did. And once again I regained hope in the midst of it all. Right in the midst of it all,
you encourage my soul. So I won't let go.
I won't let go. I'll just keep holding on. Whoa. In the midst
of it all,
in the middle of my mess, you begin to bless.
you encourage my soul.
So I won't let go. I'll just keep holding on. Weeping may last all night, joy will come in the morning light, 'cause you never fail to supply my needs. And the more I prayed, the more I knew your love for me would see me through, and your favor and grace fell on me in the midst
of it all.
That's when it happened, yeah.
You encourage my soul.
So I won't let go. I'll just keep holding on to your unchanging hand. In the midst
of it all,
you encourage me, my whole soul.
so I won't let go.
I won't let go.
I'll just keep
I'll keep holding on. In the midst
of it all,
ooh,
you encourage my soul.
I won't let go. I can't let go.
I'll just keep
I'll just keep
holding on.
holding on.
Holding on in the midst of it all.
In the midst of it all,
You encourage my soul.
you encourage my soul. Can't let
grace and favor to you on this amazing Wednesday afternoon. Listen, I believe you are tuned in on the right time, on the right day. God has something very, very significant that he wants to get into your spirit. Listen, I want you to do me a favor, hit that share button, tag, text, tweet as many people as you can. And I want you to do me another favor. I want you to feel at liberty to be engaged in this virtual worship experience. What do I mean? I mean, hit the hearts and hit the like button, hit the hand claps, engage in the comments section. That is so important to me. I like to know that you're watching, that you're there, and I want us to have that connection between us. So again, I want you to be more engaged than you have ever been before. Don't forget, make sure you share this with as many people as you can, and God's going to bless you in a supernatural way. Well, let's get into the lesson for today. Let's hear what God has to say to us. In today's session, I want to talk about strategies for resolving relationship conflicts correctly. Strategies for resolving relationship conflicts correctly. The truth of the matter is, let's put it all out on the table up front, that there isn't a relationship you are in, have been, or perhaps will be in, that will not experience to some degree a level of conflict. I'm not talking about necessarily malicious contempt for someone, but I'm talking about because of the fact that you are two different individuals who have seen life from two different vantage points. And the objective is to successfully merge together and live as harmoniously as you possibly can, walking in agreement, walking in one accord. For how can two walk together except they be in agreement? And the reality of it is, it's not that you're not going to have any disagreements or battles. All relationships go through them. In fact, the reality of it is actually makes them stronger when they're done constructively, when they're done with the intent being not to win the battle, but to come to a sense of understanding, and for both of us to be on one accord and to be on one page. It's interesting, in Proverbs 15:1, there's a proverb that is really critical to perhaps the subject matter. It says, "A soft answer turns away wrath, but harsh words stirs up anger." And so when we understand strategically resolving relational conflicts, it is very vital that we watch not only what we say, but how we are saying it. Statistic proves that 90% of misunderstandings occur not just because of what was said, but in the tone and the manner in which it was said or communicated. And so you and I have to learn how to fight the right way. Yes, I know I'd rather not fight, you'd rather not fight, but that's an unrealistic reality. That's an unrealistic expectation to have. I know she's cute. I know you think he's wonderful, and everything is great at the beginning, and whatever you want, dear, and whatever you want me to do, whatever, and all that stuff is great. But as that relationship begins to mature and develop, and the investment of time becomes deeper, the reality of the matter is that there are going to be times, unfortunately, that we may have some bouts, some spats. But the issue is learning how to fight the right way. Because the key to healthy handling of the conflicts that arise in your relationships is to respond constructively, lovingly, and with logic. Let me say that to you again. The key to really handling the conflicts that are going to arise in your relationships is learning how to respond constructively with love and with logic. Again, you're not responding out of spite. That is the quickest way for things to derail and the relational dynamic to become so fractured that it's very difficult to mend or to put it back together, because again, conflict is inevitable. But instead of waiting to for conflicts to arise and dealing with it emotionally, it is more productive for you in your relationship to be proactive, take a proactive stance and a proactive approach, intentionally prepare your mind to approach dealing with every conflict that would arise in your relationship. The truth is, you don't know when the argument is coming. You don't know what the nature of it's going to be, but you can plan a tactical response, which means that there are some boundaries in my mind as to how I'm going to relate, respond, or engage in a relational conflict. I've already developed and conditioned my mind that I'm not going to respond disrespectfully. I'm not going to respond from a position of belittling or bashing the person or the person you're in the relationship with. That there are certain things that must be ingrained in your mind, that whenever I get on her nerves, whenever she gets on my nerves, because that's going to happen. I don't care how wonderful you are, you're getting on somebody's nerves right now. But the reality of it is to be proactive so that you do not allow the already heated moment or heated environment or the intensity of disagreements to dismantle the continuity of the covenant or the relationship that you're in. Whenever you're in conflict with someone, there is one factor that can make the difference between damaging your relationship and deepening it. And that factor is, ladies and gentlemen, attitude. It is all about the attitude in which you approach the conflict. And that is more significant than perhaps you realize now. Again, the proverb says that a soft answer will turn away wrath. Sometimes we become so consumed with having to be right or needing to be right that we lose sight that the bigger picture is not for me to be right, but for us to be on one accord, for us to be on great terms, for us to be able to function properly within the relationship dynamic, and not in the day with strife or bitterness or wrath or contention or anger. The scripture says that we're not to allow anger the sun to go down on our wrath. And that is significant, because your attitude is going to have great bearing on the outcome of the circumstance or the relational tension that you are experiencing now. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the ability to handle the conflict by peaceful means. I can't tell you how many people I've counseled and said, I just need to go. I just need to leave. I need to get some peace. Well, the reality of the matter is peace doesn't mean you're not going to have some conflict, but it's how you handle the conflict. Can you handle it with peaceful means? One of my personal relationship rules is that we don't yell at each other. I don't believe in the yelling. I've often asked people, why are you yelling? Why you gotta yell? So you can hear me, so that you can understand. No, that turns me off. That shuts my sensory realm down to hearing what you're saying, because it's coming across as disrespectful to some degree. And the truth is, I can hear you, whether you say it in a tone that is beneath a whisper, or whether you're yelling it. The reality of the matter is, I can hear you, right? And so that's for me personally. I don't necessarily do that kind of yelling. Peace cannot be achieved by force. It can only be achieved by understanding, right? So no matter how much you're yelling, and no matter how much you're trying to get your point across, no matter how much you're trying to make me see what it is you're seeing from your vantage point or from your perspective, the reality of the matter is you can't get peace in your relationship by force. Peace only comes as a consequence of understanding, mutual understanding. Because the reality of the matter is all relationships are going to have ups and downs. I don't care if you think I'm gonna leave this relationship, get in the next one. Well, the next one is gonna have its ups and downs too. Life has proven it to you. Because if you hadn't figured it out yet, sometimes the other person is not the problem. Sometimes you are. And sometimes you send people on up and down escapades. You put them on emotional escapades in their life. And the reality of it is that all relationships are going to have their ups and downs. Conflicts are going to be inevitable. And sometimes the only thing that is left to do is, hear me very carefully, is to compromise. Now, I know that's a little shattering to you because you don't change your stance. You're not compromising for anybody. It's my way or the highway. If you live a little while, you'll figure out it gets lonely in the my way area. And so as you mature and develop and gain wisdom and understanding, you realize that it is better to employ strategies to resolve conflicts in the relationship than to just automatically suppose the best option is to dissolve it without giving it a fair shot, without going through all of the due diligence that is necessary to ensure that this relationship has longevity, that it is successful. And one of the hindrances to that is that most people don't like to compromise. I know it's not always easy to compromise and even to reconcile with someone. And sometimes your pride gets in the way and you'd rather not talk to that particular person. But the reality of the matter is, if you keep taking that I'm gonna just stand my ground posture and not see any room for compromise, then, ladies and gentlemen, it's always going to be conflict and contention. Relationships are negotiations. Let me let that sink in for a moment. All relationships are negotiations. They're not dictatorships, but they are negotiations. I'm willing to give this. Well, I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to do this in order for us to walk in a place of uniformity and agreement. Now, the reality of the matter is, knowing when to fight is just as important as knowing how to fight. Knowing when to fight is just as important as knowing how to fight. And the reality of it is, none of us wants to be in relationships where it's constantly fighting, constantly a battle, constantly fighting to be heard, constantly fighting to be acknowledged, constantly fighting to be appreciated. That is draining to the soul and the spirit. And even though there's no relationship that does not have its share of bouts, but that relationships, the totality of it shouldn't be comprised of more fighting than living, enjoying each other, loving each other, spending time in the company of each other. Can't wait to see them, hate to see them walk away, glad to see them come. That is the kind of relationship that every one of us want, but we have to change some of our intuitive behaviors when it comes to how we deal with conflict in our relationships. Because whenever conflicts arise, there are few reactions that over the course of my life and even counseling people, there are few innate reactions that most people give. One of the ones is that happens more often than not is when conflict arises, you tend to give the other person the silent treatment, right? Either you're giving it to them or they're giving you the silent treatment. And what happens is that you shut your partner out by refusing to talk to them about anything. And this is usually done, as quiet as it's kept, it's usually done in a vindictive manner. And it only intensifies the possibility of the demise of that relationship. You start the silence. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I don't want to hear what you have to say. I don't want to talk anymore. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to talk to you about anything else. Have you heard people say that to you? And that is an unhealthy way for a person who feels misunderstood, perhaps in a relationship, to handle or to process that conflict. The truth is, you have to talk. You can't be under the assumption that the other person is a mind reader, that they know what's wrong. They necessarily know what they did. They may have done something intentionally, or they may have done it ignorantly. But nonetheless, you have the responsibility as a responsible participant in the relationship to at least put it on record that I don't like this, or this is what you did. This is what you said. As a consequence of you saying this made me feel this way. The wrong thing to do is to take the silent treatment route. Because what you're literally teaching the other individual is that was only important to you momentarily. And because you have no further dialogue about it, then I won't give any second thought about it. But again, resolving strategically relational conflicts correctly is about, at the core, the ability to communicate. Now, sometimes you're going to have to distance yourself for a moment and say, let me process this. Let me just take a little time to just process this, because I don't want to say things that I cannot take back. I want to make sure that I'm not jumping to conclusions, that I have not misinterpreted what you're trying to convey to me. And so sometimes you need that moment to process not just what happened, but how you feel about it, so that your anger or your rage doesn't cause you to try to explain what you're feeling and you leave out the details because you're so rageful, you're so angry. And sometimes you gotta take a break so that you can process exactly how you feel, so that you can convey it to the individual and make sure there's a line of communication, so that this infraction doesn't happen, hopefully doesn't happen intentionally, again, within the relationship. Now, a willingness to trust and openly listen to alternative ideas and views are essential for collaboration to be successful. Now, that sounds like a lot, but I really need you to understand that within the confinements and the parameters of any relationship, a willingness to trust and openly listening to alternative ideas and views are essential for collaboration to be successful. Now, what does that mean for you and I? That relationships are collaborative efforts, right? If it's not a collaborative effort, then it's going to collapse and result in a ruined relationship before it even gets a chance to start, and even before it gets a chance to blossom. Relationships are collaborative efforts, which means it requires my contribution, your contribution, so that it can be successful, that it can be meaningful, that it can be filled with love, that it can be filled with trust, that it can be filled with honor. And so how should I constructively handle relational conflicts? Because again, let me say to you, it's more rewarding to resolve a conflict in the proper manner, where you still are exhibiting respect toward each other, that you still have regard and esteem for the other person. Again, just because we're in conflict doesn't mean we're out of love. It just means that there's an area that we have to hammer out, that we have to negotiate, and that we have to collaborate together to put ourselves in alignment for a successful relationship. And so how should I handle relational conflict? Number one, you have to have a predetermined mode of response. I mentioned that to you a little earlier, but let me go a little deeper. Because again, most people by instinct, when they feel unheard or disrespected, or they feel disregarded, that first instinct is to kind of just go off on their partner, right? They just go off, but you have to take a moment and begin to check your emotions, gather your thoughts. That is the thing that is the most critical, that you have to gather your thoughts. You have to start thinking before you start talking, right? Because as long as what I'm thinking is in here, there is no room for it to be misunderstood, misquoted. There's no need for me to take it back. And so between my mind and my mouth, there has to be some deliberation as to what I'm going to say and how I am going to say it. And so when you feel anger and other negative emotions beginning to stir up in you, you have to take a break and calm yourself down. Now, I know when sometimes you get mad and you start getting angry, it feels, oddly enough to say, it feels good to some people. They get in that rhythm. I'm going to tell them this, I'm going to tell them that. I'm going to really get into them. But the reality of the matter is you have to calm yourself down so that there is clarity of thought and that you're able to communicate effectively with the other individual and say, hey, this bothers me. Tell them why it bothers you. Tell them what you feel like would be a remedy for it. Well, I would rather you not mention this anymore. This is still an unprocessed area. This is still an area that I've not been healed in or healed from. And so you have to have a premeditated response. Again, listening without interrupting. That's what's important. You have to listen without interrupting. There is no sure way for communication to go nowhere than when I'm trying to explain to you what's wrong and you keep jumping in and interrupting. Well, no, I didn't do that. No. You have to learn how to listen without interrupting. You have to hear him or her without planning your reply while they're speaking. Now, that's detrimental communication, because while I'm talking, you're sitting there like this. Okay, I'm going to tell them this. Yeah, I know how I'm going to combat. I'm going to tell them this. I'm going to tell them I'm just waiting for them to shut up. And that's not really effective communication that's going to benefit conflict resolution within the relationship. Listening is not waiting to talk. Listening is fully giving your attention to what the other person is saying and receiving it and properly responding to what it is that they're saying. Most people don't listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply, right? And sometimes a reply is not needed. Your compassion is what's needed. You don't have to necessarily respond back or immediately. Sometimes I don't want to hear you respond back. I just want to see that you have some compassion or even some remorse, or that I can see you didn't mean to do it and you just realize what you did and how it affected me, right? And so you must understand that you have to listen with the intent to understand, not listen with the necessarily the intent to reply. If I'm going to strategically resolve relational conflicts in my life, then I have to have a premeditated mode of response. But then I have to restrain my speech. Now, this is a big one. I know what it is. I was going to let you have it, but I had to learn how to restrain my speech. Speak when you are angry, and you will make the best speech you will ever regret. I'll let that sink in for a moment. How many times have you said, I just said that in the heat of the moment? Well, as true as that might be, again, if you have premeditated modes of responding, again, I'm not going to respond disrespectfully. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to belittle. If you have that ingrained in your mind, then whenever there's some kind of conflict, you learn how to restrain your speech. You learn how to guard your mouth. And so again, you should never talk until you've had a chance to process and sort through your emotions. Then you are ready to share your feelings with your partner, with the other individual. Not until then. Please hear me. Let me try to catch you. And I know what you're saying. I just, whatever comes up, comes out. Well, that is an unhealthy practice. There are a whole lot of things that have come up that I never let come out. Because you know what I always thinking in my head? How am I going to feel about this 20 minutes from now? That regret comes on you quick. You ever said something to somebody and you and this, you and that, and then you walk away and walk in the restroom and go sit down and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. And so the reality of the matter is that when you are strategically resolving relational conflicts, the reality of it is that what you feel is what you feel. And you have to be open and honest about that without fear of escalating the matter. Hey, we're out here now. We might as well put it on the table. When you do this, I feel this way. When you do this, it makes me feel insecure. When you're doing this, it makes me feel inadequate. You have to be honest about what you're feeling it when you're feeling it, right? And so when something bothers you, you have to say it. I want to impress this into a lot of people's mind because I can't tell you how many people I counsel and they're so enraged and they're so sensitive, and you would assume that they're this angry about something that happened 3 hours ago. They're still angry about something that happened 4 years ago. And they're allowing these unprocessed emotions, these undiscussed, untalked about emotions weigh on them and collect on them, and they become a storage room for unprocessed baggage. And you're holding on to grudges that are creating resentment between you and the other individual. When you see them walk in the door, you just got this, you cringe, and you got this resentment toward them, this resentful attitude towards them, because you are holding on to things and choosing not to discuss them or not to disclose them. Now, the reality of the matter is communication is the key to every conflict in any relationship, right? Every relationship needs it. Now, hear this and hear this very well. You can't talk your way out of something you behave your way into. You have to behave your way out of it. Now, that's going to stick with you for a long time, right? You can't talk your way out of something you behaved your way into. You have to behave your way out of it. In other words, it's about your actions at this moment. The apology was the honorable thing to do. It was the respectful thing to do. But apologies are no good without action. Say, God, I'm so sorry for talking to you like that. What you were saying is, I will never talk to you in that manner again in my life. That's my goal. That's why I will never allow myself to be that angry when I talk to you in that manner. And so to strategically resolve relational conflicts, not only must there be a premeditated response to conflict, but you have to restrain your speech, and you have to not just say it or articulate your intentions, but you have to change behaviors that created the intense environment in the first place. If I'm going to strategically handle this relationship, ladies and gentlemen, I have to stop initiating conflict avoidance, right? Because just because you avoid it or choose not to deal with it at that moment doesn't mean it's going away. As a matter of fact, avoiding issues in relationship will turn something that is quite small right now into what seems to be an insurmountable hill later. But if you had just dealt with it then, it could be something that you all have conquered by now. Sometimes avoiding conflict seems to be a valuable option, but the truth of the matter is it never is. Conflicts won't walk away by themselves. You can only try to sweep it under the rug, as they say, for so long. And that will only cause things to escalate. And it will only cause the trust and or the fiber and the fabric of that relationship to become unwoven very, very quickly. The primary goal in any conflict is to resolve it. right? It's not to just say, to prove to you I'm right or I'm bigger, I'm smarter, I'm more intelligent, I have the right perspective. No, at the end of the day, we want this resolved. And if we're going to resolve it, then we have to employ understanding that the end result will be better if I learn how to make my partner feel valued, special, loved, right? Because that's more important than just winning the fight. Because the reality of the matter is, you're going to feel one way today, you'll feel another way in 3 hours from now. Have you ever had an argument with your girl or with your guy? You ever had an argument with them at 5 o'clock, and then by 8:15, y'all were sitting down eating dinner together, laughing about something else, right? Because I might feel one way right now, but the quicker you learn strategically how to resolve conflicts, the quicker you can move on from that and use what you've learned about each other during the conflict. That is, in fact, most people don't understand that conflict is really another way for me to learn my special or significant other in a way that I would not have learned had the conflict never arisen in our relationship, right? And so I learned her perspective about this. You've learned his perspective on this, because this was never a discussion. But through the conflict, you learn some valuable things about each other that better prepares you to not engage in that kind of conflict again. And so you have to learn how to strategically resolve things so that future conflicts are less likely to happen about that same particular matter. Instead, properly handling of conflicts can actually result in a win-win situation for both of you. In fact, that's what it's supposed to do. For if you're in a relationship with any individual, conflict is supposed to be a win-win situation for both of you. Both parties are pleased, and watch this, both of us are back in harmonious alignment again. Hear me, conflict is inevitable, but combat is optional. Now I'm gonna sit that there for a moment. What does that mean? That means we don't have to go to war just because we have a difference of opinion, just because I don't necessarily see it that way. And sometimes when the other person doesn't see it that way you see it, it's just a matter of further clarity sometimes. It's just a matter of going a little deeper with your describing of how you perceive something should happen or should not happen, right? Again, communication is the key. No matter what the conflict is, you have to be able to communicate effectively. And for every couple, every friendship, every relationship, there's going to be conflict, but conflict is inevitable, but combat is optional, which means we don't always have to go to war. We don't always have to stay up 4 and 5 hours yelling, throwing stuff at each other. Conflict is inevitable, but combat is an option that you have authority over. You have to decide, hey, this is not going to be that kind of relationship. We're not throwing microwaves. We're not slamming doors, because you can't slam a door in my house. But that's just me, right? We're not slamming nothing. We're not throwing anything around. Please don't mess with my clothes. Don't do all that stuff, because every relationship, there is going to be some conflict. That doesn't mean that there has to be combat. It shouldn't be a war zone. It should be a love zone, right? You should be wanting to finish your business up for the day and hurry up and get back to that individual, not trying to take on more things to stay away from them, because it's always some conflict. If I just say one little thing, he goes off. If I just do this, she's going off. No. You have to learn how to employ the strategies to resolve conflicts in your life, which are going to come. They're going to come, because the truth of the matter is you are two people from two backgrounds, two families, two different dynamics, two vantage points. And again, you're trying to merge together. Which brings me to the next strategy, is that you have to accept each other's differences, right? The reality of the matter is, although your viewpoints may be on the opposite end of the spectrum, they both are valid. And hear this, they are both worth considering. I would hope that you have not hooked up or made covenant or gotten in relationship with people that you disregard easily, that you don't give any consideration to their feelings, their worth, their value, their input, their vantage point, their experience, their expertise. You have to understand that even though you may feel one way, she may feel one way, you may see things one way, he may see things the other way, they both are valid and worth giving consideration. Now, you have to make a resolve between each other. Hey, we're going to hash this out. We're going to do it in a calm, in a rational manner. Sometimes we're going to have to agree to disagree, right? Okay, you think red is better. I think blue is better. But that's not worth us having a tumultuous night, right? I don't even care. At some point, that's not big enough of an issue for the dynamics of our relationship to be hinged upon, right? So what? Let's go with the red. It doesn't matter. You have to know what doesn't matter. You got to get to that place of maturity where this doesn't matter and this has no bearing on the furtherance or the fruitfulness of our relationship. Now, the reality of the matter is that although sometimes a resolution cannot be reached immediately or at that moment, both people, both individuals or whoever, leave the discussion feeling heard, validated, and valued. And at that point, everybody involved wins. You lose when you're in a conflict and you're having heated moments and the other person feels shut out, they feel unheard, they feel devalued, they feel belittled, then nobody wins. It's hard. You're making it harder to rebound, harder to recover from, harder to reconcile. But the truth of the matter is, if you're going to strategically handle relational conflicts the correct way, then you got to be able to accept other people's differences. What she does might be weird to you, but then again, what you do might be weird to her, right? You got to let go of your self-righteousness and I'm the mighty one, I'm the superior one. And, you know, you crazy too. If you listen to what she tells her friends about, they say, well, he's crazy too. And you telling your boy she's a little crazy. The reality of it is all of us we're different individuals, but how can two walk together except they be in agreement? Doesn't mean that agreement happens overnight or instantly, but you have to employ the strategies and a tactical approach in order to make harmony and unity your resolve. And if you do that, then you're going to see significant results. You're going to see significant change in the relationship in terms of being able to trust each other, being able to be open with each other, being able to dialogue with each other about any subject matter without fear of being isolated, without fear of being combated by your anger or by your rage or by your silent treatment or by you stomping out the house, disappearing for a few hours. No. We're maturing and we're starting to understand that if you're going to be able to handle the kind of crisis sometimes that every relationship goes in. Again, it goes back to knowing how to compromise, right? In relationship, it's about negotiation and compromise. I'm gonna keep saying it to you until you get it. It's about negotiation. It's about compromise. Not everyone gets what they want when they want it, right? You know, because if I had it my way, that's how it be. What I want, I want. I want it this way, but that's just not realistic, and it's not a healthy relationship. That's a dictatorship, and that's not healthy for anyone. But you compromise because none of us gets what we want all the time when we want it. But you should strive to try to see the situation from the other person's perspective to at least understand where they are coming from, right? Sometimes, and I had to get to that point, that I was not always there. I handled some relationships very badly because I would never try to see it from the other person's vantage point. But it's when you do that, you start realizing how much more you start initiating apologies. You start realizing more that your ego is a hindrance to the elevation and expansion of the depth of this relationship, right? Just saying, oh, I didn't see it that way. Now I'm able to see it through your eyes, through your light. And that is one of the benefits of conflict between you and the other individual, because now you've talked about it, you've hashed it out. Now I have a broader perspective. Now I know from this moment on how to proceed in any other exchanges that we have within a relationship, and because I'm able to now see it from your point of view. Now, the reality of the matter is, hear this and hear this well, that no one in history has ever been insulted into agreement. If you think that you're going to bring your relationship to a place of alignment and oneness and agreement by insulting the individual or belittling them or telling them what they're not, what they should be, and you're not this, and that, no one has ever insulted anybody into agreement. Agreement is the result of the other person seeing your willingness to compromise, seeing your willingness to entertain negotiations, because a relationship is give and take. It's about negotiation. Well, I'm going to do this, and this is what I'm going to do. And sticking to the agreements, it's what actually creates and cultivates the atmosphere for successful relationship agreements in your life. Now, the reality of the matter is, when you have these relational bouts or what I like to call disturbances and disagreements, always remember that you fight to improve, not to damage. Your end result should never be to damage, hurt, or harm the other individual in the relationship. The truth of the matter is, you're making the decision to premeditate a response, right? And sometimes you got to tell the other person, listen, give me a moment. Let me digest this, because I don't want to say anything out of turn. I certainly don't want to offend you, and I definitely don't want to disrespect you. So I'm going to respectfully ask you, give me a little time. Let me think about it. Let me get my head together. Let me get my speech together so that we can effectively communicate and navigate through this challenge so that we can get beyond it. So we're never having conflict because I want to damage you or tear you down or make you feel less than the individual that you are, make you feel less than who God created you to be. Now, the reality of the matter is, remember not only to say the right thing in the right place, but far more difficult still to leave unsaid the wrong thing at the tempting moment. All right? Because you already know. I don't even have to ask you. You already know when they're fussing, when they're saying their piece in your mind, you already saying, I'm going to tell her this. I know this is going to hurt her. Or I know this is going to hit him right here. I'm going to just say that. You just sitting back there waiting for them to finish what they're saying. Remember not only to say the right thing in the right place, but far more difficult, ladies and gentlemen, is to leave unsaid the wrong thing at the tempting moment. I know it might be tempting. God knows. I know it. If I felt, man, I should say this. Because I'm mature, I anticipate the cut they're going to incur. I anticipate the road of regret I'm going to be on, and now I got to try to apologize and regain her trust, and I hurt her with a vulnerability she shared with me, and then that's not good. That's never good for anybody. The end result of the disagreement or the argument is never to damage the person, but it is to allow them to be heard, know that they're respected, and insist on them that this has no bearing on how much I love you. I still love you. I can't stand you right now, but I still love you. I don't necessarily like you right now, but get back with me about lunchtime. We'll see if we're ready to eat together at that moment, right? And so I want to challenge you to employ these strategies for resolving relational conflict. I believe it's going to change your life. It's going to change the dynamics of how you deal with whoever you're engaged with, and it's going to help you. It's going to strengthen you, right? Well, I'm out of time for this session. I hope you have gleaned some things that you can use that are going to be very vital as you proceed in this relationship or even the next one, whatever stage of life you're in. I hope this these tools and strategies better prepare you for where you're going next, right? Well, my brother and my sister, after hearing the word of God, maybe there's someone out there, in fact, I know you're out there, whose heart has been touched by God through the word, and you're wondering, what must I do to be saved? Well, my brother, my sister, I've got great news for you. Today is your day of salvation. Salvation is even nigh you, says the word of God. What do I need to do to be saved? All you have to do is confess with your mouth Jesus Christ as Lord and believe in your heart that his Father, God, raised him from the dead, and he is now seated on the right hand of God, making intercession for you and I. At this very moment, God is making intercession for you. And if you're watching and you said, that is me, I want you to put right there in the comment, it's me. And I'm going to pray very specifically for you. If you're receiving Christ this day, if maybe you're watching and you're a backslider, and you have been challenged, convinced, and convicted by the word of God, that today is a great day for a turnaround. Today is a great day for a fresh start. And if that's you and you've received Jesus Christ in your heart and you're a backslider, but today you're coming back, restoring your relationship with Christ, just put in the comments, it's me. Or maybe you're watching this day and you say, Pastor, I have a relationship with Jesus Christ, but what I need is a church home. I need a man of God. I need a place to serve. I need a place to be submitted and committed to. If the Spirit of God is leading you to this place, it doesn't matter what city you're in or state or zip code or area code you reside in. The only thing that matters is that you receive Jesus Christ and you are receiving this as your church home, as your church family. There's an email address right here at the bottom of the screen. I want you to take full advantage of it. I've got staff on standby right now. They're not only praying for you and with you, but they are waiting to help further facilitate your next steps. Now that you have received Jesus Christ, I want you to know the Bible says that the angels in heaven rejoice over one soul. Not only is heaven rejoicing this day, I want you to know we are rejoicing with you, my brother and my sister. And let me say to you officially, welcome to the family. Well, beloved, this is our global giving experience, and boy, am I excited about it. When you're a child of God and you walk by faith, you not only get excited about receiving, but you get very excited about any opportunity God presents to you to be a giver and to sow. I tell people all the time, I don't make a living by what I get. I make a living by what I give. I create the life I want by being a giver. For it is more blessed to give than it is to receive. And as we're preparing today globally to honor the Lord in our giving with our substance, I want to challenge every one of you that are watching me today. I want you to prepare what we call here in our ministry our corporate seed offering. That's a $42 seed. And I want you to plant it in the ground by faith. It's a seed that expedites return. It's a seed of double. It's a seed of replenishment of all those things you lost, according to the 42nd chapter of Job. So I want all of you to covenant with me today. I want you to partner with me while you're watching this, or those who are watching the replay, or whenever you would watch this. I want you to release by faith a $42 seed offering today and watch how God miraculously blesses you. Well, Bishop, if I don't have that $42, does that exclude me from the giving process? Absolutely not. Get that out of your head. It's for those that would hear, that can respond and obey that. But if you say, Pastor, I don't have that seed, but I have a seed that I want to put in the ground, I want to challenge you to get the very best seed that you have on this day. And I want you to present it unto the Lord, and you're going to see the blessings of heaven overwhelm you like never before. The giving means are right here at the bottom of the screen. Find one that's most convenient for you, and I want you to choose that one, and I want you to give it by faith. I want you to thank God in advance for the harvest that's coming your way. If you choose not to give electronically, there's a mailing address right at the bottom of your screen as well. Get a stamp, a money order, cashier's check. Put it in there. We're going to pray over it, receive it, and pronounce heaven's blessed over your life. You can't be God giving no matter how hard you try. Keep on giving. Heaven's ready to give unto you. Well, my brother, my sister, I hope that you have enjoyed the Lord on this day. I hope you have enjoyed receiving the word as much as I have enjoyed teaching and releasing this word to you. Let me say a thank you to all of you who spend your Wednesday afternoon with me. Thank you. Those of you who take part of your lunch break, those of you who take some of your break, and those of you who even pull over the car and watch this midday Bible study. I want you to know I am incredibly grateful for your support and your commitment to this ministry. Now, I need you to do me a favor. There are a lot of people, perhaps your friends, family, who did not have the opportunity to watch this today. Well, guess what? I want you to tell them to tune in tonight for 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's right. I want you to be an evangelist for me. I want you to call as many people as you know. If this has been a blessing to you, I want you to reach out to as many people that you want it to be a blessing to. And I want you to tell them to tune in right here tonight, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. God's going to do something amazing. Don't forget, if you have not, please make sure you are connecting with us on all of our social media platforms. Don't forget and make sure you go to all of my social media platforms at Henry Bolden, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and I want you to subscribe and I want you to like. Thank you so much for all of your comments on this day. Please know that I'm going to get to look at each and every one of them, and I'm going to respond to them. Those of you who have questions or any prayer requests, all of those things, I want you to send it to me. I want you to know that you and I are bonded together. We are connected. I love my cyber church family, and I pray for you on a daily basis. Well, I'm out of time for now, but as always, in part, and always remember that things can change for you at any moment. I'll see you next week.